All right, welcome everyone. So have you ever felt totally lost trying to figure out the difference between a TPS, an MIS, and an ESS? Well, you are in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to demystify all these systems, show you precisely how they all fit together, and then, this is the best part, we'll tackle some real exam questions so you can walk into your test feeling confident. Let's jump right in.
Okay, before we dive into all the different types of systems, we've got to make sure we're all on the same page about what an information system even is. Now, I know it sounds super complex, but really, if we just break down those two words, information and system, it's actually pretty straightforward.
Okay, first up, information. See, it's not just a big pile of numbers or random facts. That's what we call data. Information is what you get when you actually process that data to make it meaningful. It's the answer to a question, right? It's the insight that helps you make a smarter choice.
And what about a system? Well, that's just a bunch of connected parts all working together to get something done. I mean, think about it. Any system works this way, right? You put something in, it does something to it, and you get something out. So you put them together, and an information system is just a system that's built to manage information. It's really that simple. Let's see how this plays out in a business.
Okay, let's dive in. The best way to really get how these different systems serve an organization is to picture it as a pyramid. Seriously, this model is your key to unlocking this whole topic.
So way down at the bottom of this pyramid, that's where all the daily stuff happens, the operations. Then, in the middle, you've got your managers, the ones who monitor and control everything. And right at the very top, you have senior leaders making those big, long-term strategic decisions. And what we're going to do is climb this pyramid together, one level at a time.
All right, we're starting at the bottom, at the operational level. You can think of this as the engine room of the company. It's where the day-to-day fundamental activities are happening constantly. We're talking sales, receipts, payroll, you name it.
The workhorse system down here is the Transaction Processing System, or TPS. Its whole job is to handle that massive volume of daily transactions as efficiently and accurately as possible. Just think of it as the tireless, super-fast bookkeeper for the entire company.
Okay, so here's the really crucial point, the main takeaway for this level. A TPS is the foundation. It's built to answer those routine, everyday questions like, hey, did that payment go through? Or how many of these widgets do we have in stock? It is the primary data collector that fuels every other system we're about to talk about. This is definitely one of those write this down moments.
Okay, let's head up to the next level and see how everything builds on that foundation. We're now at the management level. Up here, the big question changes. It's not just what's happening, it's more like, okay, are we on track? Are things working the way they should be? This is all about keeping the ship on course.
So the first system we run into here is the Management Information System, or MIS for short. An MIS takes all that raw data from the TPS downstairs and boils it down into useful reports. Stuff like weekly sales figures or those monthly production summaries. It gives managers a clear snapshot of performance. But, not every problem is routine, right? What happens then? For those tricky, non-routine problems, managers turn to a Decision Support System, or DSS. That's where a DSS comes in. It's way more interactive and helps managers wrestle with unique problems by exploring all kinds of what-if scenarios. Now, this slide is perfect because it really nails the difference between the two. The best way to think about it is this. An MIS is like a rearview mirror. It gives you a crystal clear report of where you've been. A DSS, on the other hand, is more like a sophisticated GPS. It helps you model the future and ask, what if we take this route instead? Yeah, one hands you a report card on the past, while the other gives you this cool sandbox to model the future. Big difference. And just like that, we've made it to the very top of our pyramid, the strategic level. This is where the senior executives hang out, and their job isn't worrying about the day-to-day. No, these are the people whose job it is to look at the big picture. We're talking 5, maybe even 10 years down the road. And up here, they use what's called an Executive Support System, or ESS. You might also hear it called an Executive Information System. This system is all about that high-level bird's-eye view. It's designed to show them not just what's happening inside the company, but also what's going on out there in the world, what competitors are doing, what the market trends look like. And this really shows you why the ESS sits at the peak. It pulls in that summarized data from the MIS and DSS below it and presents it in a really visual, easy-to-understand way, usually on a dashboard. Basically, it helps them answer those really tough, messy questions where there's no single right answer. The ones that take real experience and judgment. All right, so we've climbed the whole pyramid, we've got the theory down. But let's be real.
Exams can be tricky, right? They love to ask about things that the textbook only kind of hints at. So what we're going to do now is look at a couple of classic exam-style questions, focusing on the MIS, since that's a popular target for these kinds of deeper questions.
So here's a pretty common type of question you might see. It's asking you about the real-world challenges, the headaches you run into when you actually try to build and run a management information system. See, it's not just about knowing the definition. You have to understand the real-world problems, the things that can go wrong.
So what are those problems? Well, if you look at these, you'll notice something interesting. A lot of these constraints aren't about the tech itself. They're about people, they're about money, they're about change. You might get resistance from staff who are just comfortable with the old way of doing things. And here's a classic one. The benefits, like better decisions, are often really hard to measure. I mean, how do you put a price tag on that? It can make it a really tough sell to management.
Okay, so here's the other side of that coin. Instead of asking what can go wrong, a question might ask, what do you need to get right from the very beginning for an MIS to even have a chance of succeeding? What are those essential ingredients?
And these are the absolute must-haves. First, you need one central database. Because think about it, if sales has one set of numbers and marketing has another, your reports are going to be a total mess. You also absolutely need support from top management. Without their backing, forget about getting a budget or getting people on board. And finally, you need a plan for maintenance. Remember, a system like this isn't a set it and forget it kind of deal. Seriously, you might want to pause and write these down. This stuff is absolute gold for exams.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So how do you focus your studying from here? Let's boil all of this down into a super clear, simple study plan that you can actually use starting today.
Looking at how exams are usually structured, these are your big three topics. Honestly, your top priority has to be the TPS. Why? Because without the data it collects, none of the other systems can even function. After that, really lock in your understanding of MIS and DSS, because they are the heart of what management does.
So here it is, your simple three-step game plan. First, just nail the definitions. Be able to write one clear sentence for each system. Second, practice drawing that pyramid from memory and labeling it correctly. And third, connect each system to the kind of decision it helps with. If you can do these three things seriously, you are going to be in fantastic shape.
And look, this whole framework, it's not just about passing an exam. It's a really powerful way to look at any organization. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Think about a problem at your school or your job. Is it a routine transaction issue, a complex what-if problem, or a big, long-term strategic challenge? Because applying this stuff to the real world, that's how you really master it. Good luck with your studies.